Hey everybody, this is Miss Burkham, and in this video we're talking about what is on the back of your Milky Way Madness activity this week, which talks about the place value and 10 times and 1/10. So guys, the biggest thing is if you remember about 10 times and 1/10, it's when you're comparing numbers. So kind of to start as an example, if I had 1,111, okay, well if I break it down, this is 1,000. This is 100, this is 10, and this is 1, okay? Well, when I'm thinking of 10 times, what it really means is I would need 10 of these to get to my next place value, which means my tens place is 10 times the size of my ones place, because it would take 10 of my ones place to reach my tens place. Okay, and same thing from my tens to my hundreds. Okay, I have 100 and I have 10. Well, I know it would take me 10 tens to reach that 100, meaning that 100 is 10 times greater than that 10. Okay, now I go here from my 100 to my 1,000. Well, same thing. I know it would take 10 of my hundreds to reach that 1,000. So 1,000 is 10 times greater than 100. Okay, now to kind of think about 1/10. And so 1/10 basically is exactly what it sounds like. It's where you take 1 out of the 10. So if we think about it this way, okay, we think about our tens block, our rod, okay? So a rod, which looks like this, okay? So if a rod has 10 places on it, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. What it means when you're doing times 1/10, it means you're taking 1 out of every 10. So right here, we have 10 units in our rod. We have 10 of our blocks in our one rod. I would take 1 of these, okay? I would take 1 of these out of the 10, meaning that 1/10 of our 10 is 1. Okay, so also think about it as a hundreds block. All right, so if I had a hundreds block, okay, and a hundreds block is made up of 10 rods. Okay, so there's my 10 rods. There's my hundreds, right? If I did 100 times 1/10, that means I am taking 1 of these 10 rods. It's like seeing 1 of the 10 rods. You take 1 for every 10. So let's say I took this one. This is 100 times 1/10. I took this 1 out of the 10 rods. Well, how much would that give me? That would give me this 10 right here. So guys, the easiest way to think about it is when you're doing times 10, it's moving up to the next place value. It goes from ones to tens, from tens to hundreds, from hundreds to thousands, and so on. When it's moving times 1/10, that means it's getting smaller. It's going from a bigger place value to the next smallest one. So it would be from 1,000 to 100, from 100 to 10, from 10 to 1. Okay, so that's the biggest thing to keep in mind. So with that in mind, let's start looking at this one right here. Okay, so we here have, what is the relationship between the highlighted digit and the underlined digit? Well, I can see this highlighted digit right here. Okay, and it is a 5, but it's a 5 in my hundreds place. So I know the value of that is 500. And then my underlined digit, it's also a 5, but it's in my tens place, so it has a value of 50. And I have to look and see what is the relationship between that highlighted digit and underlined digit, meaning is my highlighted digit, that 500, is it 10 times greater than my underlined digit, or is it 1/10 the size? Well, remember, if it's 10 times, that means it's getting bigger. right? My number would be it's bigger than the other one. If it's 1/10, that means it's smaller in comparison. So let's start here. My highlighted 5, which is worth, and we already figured that out, 500. Well, guys, think about it. Is 500 greater than 50 or less than? Well, 500 is definitely greater than. So if we're talking about that 500 and its relationship with that 5 in the 10 spot, it would be greater than, meaning that it is 10 times the size of our other digit, our digit in the tens place. Okay, because that 500, it means that it is greater than that 50. And it also means that I would need 50, with my 50, I would need 10 of my 50s to reach that 500. Okay, meaning that my highlighted 5, which was worth 500, is 10 times the size of the underlined 5, which was worth 50. All right, now let's look at this one. This one should be a refresher from a few weeks ago. Okay, so in this, what is the value of the digit 8 in that 683,029,741? Well, if I didn't know that right off the bat, guys, my best advice is go through and label these. So this was my ones, this was my tens, hundreds. Then we go into our thousands, our 10,000s, and 100,000s. Okay, now after my thousands comes my millions, my 10 millions, and my 100 millions. Well, guys, right there, I can see that my 8 is in my 10 million spot, meaning that it's not just worth 8, but the value of that is actually 80 million because it's an 8 in my 10 million spot. So simple, I would just write that out. It is 80 million. And I could do that in number form or I could do that in word form. Okay. So now our next one. It wants to know, how is the number 683,029,741 expressed in expanded notation? So guys, if we think back to last week's stuff, remember expanded notation is when you got to break it apart even more. It's not expanded form where you break it down by the value of each digit, but you kind of got to zoom in even more. Okay, so let's start with our 6 in our 100 million spot. So starting out, I said that it was a 6, and I know it's in my 100 million spot. So to get that digit in that spot, I would have to do 6 times 100 million. Then continuing on, I see my 8. And it is in my 10 million spot. So to get that, I would have to do 8 times 10 million. Okay, then I have my 3, the digit 3, and that's in my million spot. So that means I would have to do 3 times 1 million. Now, guys, if I look at my next one in my 100,000s place, okay, there's a 0. So I don't necessarily have to represent that because it's a 0. And it not being there represents it just as much as us writing our 0 times 100,000. Okay, so I wrote it in there, but you don't have to. It's just the same to not put it in there at all. So now my next digit is a 2. And it is in my 10,000 spot. Okay, then I have the digit 9. And what place is that? Oh, that's in my thousands spot. All right, now I'm in my next group. So I have my 7. And my 7 is in my 100 spot, so it actually has a value of 700. So to get there, it would be 7 times 100. Then I have my 4, which is a value of 40. So to get that there, it would be 4 times 10. And then last but not least, we have our digit 1. That's also in the ones place, so it would just be 1 times 1. All right. Now, looking back here at number 2, it's talking about that times 10 and that 1/10 again. All right. So it says the 7 in the 10 millions place is blank than the 7 in the millions place. So what it wants to know is it 10 times the size, meaning it's greater, or is it 1/10 the size, meaning it's smaller? Well, I like to work with visuals, okay? My biggest thing on visuals is I like to see stuff. So a 7 in the 10 millions place, which is this one right here, okay, well, that has to mean that it's worth 70 million. All right, and then the 7 in my millions place, oh, well, that means that if it's a 7 in a millions place, that would be worth 7 million. Well, guys, right out of the gate, let's think about it. What is their relationship? Which one is greater? Which one is less? Okay, well, I can see that 70 million is definitely greater than 7 million, right? Well, think about it. If I'm saying it's greater, would I be saying that it's 10 times, or would I be saying it's 1/10? Remember, 10 times is greater, 1/10 is smaller. So I think I'd be saying that it's 10 times the 7 in the millions place. Okay, so to finish this sentence, the 7 in the 10 millions place is 10 times the size of the 7 in the millions place. All right. Number 3. All right, so we're back to thinking about the value, that place value of things, okay? So what is the value of the digit 7 in 3,177,582,345? So remember, what I like to do is I like to go through and label the places to kind of help my brain process it. So my ones, my tens, my hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000. Then we are now in our millions, 10 million, 100 million, and then we go to our billion. All right, well, the one that I'm focused on is this 7, that 7 right there, okay? So it's the 7 that's right here, right next to that 10 million. Okay, well, now I have to think, what is the value of that digit? It's in my 10 millions place. So it's not just worth a 7, but it's in that 10 million spot, meaning that that 7 is worth 70 million. Okay, so I would write that out. All right, pretty simple. Okay. All right, and it looks like this one repeated itself from up here on this one right here. So you have the option. You can do it for the number it gave us in box 3, or you can skip it. I'm okay with that either way. So I'm going to go ahead and do it how they did it in box 3. So my first digit right here is a 3, okay? So it would be, I would start with 3 times, but 3 times what? What place is that in? Well, if you remember over here where we kind of zoomed in and labeled it, that's in my billion spot. So I would start out with 3 times 1 billion. Pretty big. Now I go into my next place, which is my 100 millions. I have the digit 1, and then I'm in my 100 millions place. My next one, it's the digit 7. And we kind of already broke that one down when said it was in my 10 million spot. All right, now we're on our next one, which is another 7, but that 7 is in my million spot. So I would do, to get it, I would do 7 times 1 million. Now I move on in my hundred thousands, and the digit is 5. And it's in my hundred thousands place. Next is 10,000. It's the digit 8. But it's in my 10,000 spot. Then I'm in my thousands, and the digit is a 2 times 1,000. Now I'm in my hundreds. So the digit was 3. That represents 300. So to get to that, I would do 3 times 100. Now I'm in my tens. My digit's a 4, but it's in my 10 spot. And last but not least, I have a 5, and it is in my 1 spot. All right. Okay, now we have a word problem on number 4. Okay, so on number 4, in 2008, the total number of cell phone users in Indonesia was about 140,578,000. Which expression has the same value as 140,578,000? Okay, well, guys, it looks like they're wanting to turn this number, our focus number, into expanded form. Not expanded notation like we just did, but expanded form where you stretch it out. So let's go through. Okay, what I like to do to really help set myself up is I like to go ahead and expand it out so that my brain is ready for it. So I have 140,578,000. So I see that that 1 isn't just a 1, but it's 100 million. Then I had my 40 million. Okay, then my next digit's a 5 in my hundred thousands place. So that represents 500,000. Then I have a 7 in my 10,000 spot, so that represents 70,000. And an 8 in my 1,000 spot, representing 8,000. And then the rest are zeros, so I don't have to put anything to represent that. So let's start going through our list. So looking at all of these to start out, I need to see, did they represent my 1 the correct way, that digit 1? Ooh, I see C. C wrote 10 million. But I know that my 1 over here represented 100 million. So it can't be C. All right, now let's go on to our next part. And we know our next digit represented 40 million. So we've already crossed off C. Okay, now let's check. We have 40 million here, 40 million here, and 40 million here. So all 3 answer choices that are left represented that 4, that digit 4, the correct way. So now let's look at our 5. Okay, our 5 is actually in the hundred thousands place, not my millions place, because my millions place had a 0. So that 5 isn't just a 5, it's 500,000. But oh no, look here. This says the 5 represented 5 million, but is that true? Because we figured out it represented 500,000, meaning A could not be our answer. All right, let's check B. 500,000. Yep, there, it's on the right track. Okay, now let's check D. Oh no, it said the 5 didn't represent 500,000, but only 500. And is that true? Nope, because in our 100 spot, we had a 0, so that could not be true. Meaning, if I want to, I can absolutely check all the rest of this just to make sure. But guys, that's my only answer choice that's left. But let's go ahead and check it. So we're saying my 7 represented 70,000, which is also in this answer choice. And we said my 8 represented 8,000, which is also in my answer choice, meaning that our answer to this one